Hi everyone, it's nice to meet you. It's so great to be here again. We've been hosting these artist connection sessions for I think 3 or 4 years now, and it's always really, really insightful and fun. And my name is Clay Ross. I'm a musician, and I've been coming to APAP now for probably 15 years, I think. And I've been producing a showcase on a Friday night at APAP for the last 9 years. And so we've gotten to know, between Jayme and I, we have quite a bit of institutional knowledge in this world of APAP. And we always love to share what we've learned with fellow artists, and also to hear what's on your minds, and to hear some sort of best cases and best practices that we can all share among ourselves. So this session is really just for all of us to come together and be a bit of a mastermind for one another. So maybe we'll take a temperature a little bit on what's on everybody's minds.
Just to make this like really quick popcorn style, if you want to say a one sentence question, struggle, goal, something that feels mysterious, opaque, hit a plateau. I would love to get a sense if people want to just like shout out one by one, and then we'll really use those things to focus this session on things that are actually useful.
How does
Great, thank you. A music promoter? Yeah. Okay, great. Getting representation. Yeah. Yeah, getting representation, hitting the big leagues, growing up and becoming a musician. How okay, so making connections with other musicians.
I think that's that helps them connect them maybe homeschool. Like looks like
Great. Yeah.
how is an arts make life better?
Oh.
Wow,
that's for you?
We'll just have a big line to give you a hug. Thank you. And actually, maybe just follow up. What kind of arts admin?
Oh, right now I'm at a university.
Okay, great.
As
Yes. Great. So marketing, farming things out, getting more support, sharing resources with other artists. Yes. Great. Okay. Yes. Okay, great. And do you mean in terms of the content of what you're creating or how you're sharing it? Both. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. He's asking about dividing or balancing the business side and music side. You probably already lost your mind, that's why you're here. Welcome. Okay, yeah, so booking regional, national, and international shows outside of your home play. Yeah. Yes, the age-old question, do I need an agent or should I do it on my own? Yeah.
Another riff
Are you asking for a friend? Yeah, he might be in the room. Great. Excellent.
Really close.
Excellent. Thank you. He's asking for the cameras. He's asking about, as a composer who doesn't play piano, how to connect with more people. So, again, are you thinking sync licensing or more theater?
That would be an extension.
Great. Yeah, I have thoughts. Okay, a couple more. Hey. You mean to trick people?
No. You have an bar.
And you want it
So
to be smaller?
everything.
Yeah. Okay, this is great. I would maybe broaden it to say, like, I think for a lot of people, how to tour with a varying size ensemble that may or may not match the promotional material that you have. Yeah. Yeah. Great. How to diff out funding. Yeah. More? Any more? Hi. How to keep boundaries? Yeah, and I think keeping boundaries is super helpful at every stage for particular reason. Okay, one more. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, playing, performing, following. Yeah. Wow, this is deep and wide. Thank you so much.
All the stuff.
All the things.
I wrote this down.
Great.
You want to hit them one by one?
Should we just hit it one by one?
Yeah.
And like just do this and throw our playbook out the window?
I like
Yeah. Great.
What's in the playbook?
Well, it's gonna be covered.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah. We're professional.
Yeah. So some of these I think can be kind of in compartmentalized categories, right? I mean, I wouldn't mind addressing your question first because it was the first question, and the idea of like hitting, how do you sort of graduate from the fringe into the big time, so to speak. My personal opinion about this, and I mean, I'd love to hear from other people in the room about this, but I'm an artist now who's been at this for 20 years, right? And I very much have considered myself on the fringe for a lot of that. I've also won 2 Grammy Awards, been nominated 3 times, and I've toured in over 30 countries as a cultural ambassador through the U.S. State Department, and I've sustained a career making a livelihood, playing 50 to 200 concerts a year, every year for like the last 15 years, which is amazing, right? I still feel fringe. So just to say, from my perspective, and I know that there are levels to this thing, but from my perspective, and I've talked to a lot of people that I perceive as much more successful than I have been, that I admire a lot, and they feel the same way. I've had the pleasure of working with artists that work with the biggest band in the world, like the Rolling Stones, right? Like big singers. And I asked, like, do you get that feeling every January, like you're never going to work again, like I get? And it's, yeah, every year. So, I mean, I just to say, I don't really think there is such a thing as adults in the room. We just have to be the adult in the room. And I think that, continuing to show up for yourself, for your art, for your music, you're gonna be met with moments of like amazing success, and then the roller coaster's gonna come back down again, and then you're gonna ride back up again, and it's always gonna be this ebb and flow. And the way that we measure success as artists has really got to be different than the way you might traditionally measure success, right? Because they come in fits and spurts and moments of, excitement, and then moments of to regroup and rebuild and make something new.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'll just add one thing that you touched on is just the importance of setting your own meaningful and realistic metrics for what success is. If you use outside metrics like Spotify numbers or Instagram followers or winning an award, that would just forever be based on outward thing. But we have metrics of our own making, metrics of like meaning, of fulfillment, of satisfaction, of feeling for our community, of collaborations, of expressing yourself. And I think one of the dangers really of being an artist, in the system that we have is that we're forever chasing the next metric. I have a friend I talked to about this. She said, an hour after she got off stage at Carnegie Hall for the first time, she was like back on her email, like trying to get the next gig, capitalizing on the play that just happened, wondering if she'd go back headlining the next time. And she caught herself doing it and was like kind of aghast, realizing that like hamster wheel, because the metric was wrong, that actually that kind of woke her up to realize, oh wow, I actually set more realistic and meaningful metrics that are more broad, that might include numbers and what the business bank account looks like and the number of gigs on the calendar, but those aren't the only. They'll go crazy. Other metrics, like cultivate experience of like fulfillment, satisfaction with the little things you do, and sometimes that like small hometown show is way more satisfying when your people come out and you fill the room, and and you actually might make decent money, and the chase is like half we'll wind up doing that actually don't play, don't stop this. So
And like, give stuff. Or that's it. All the and then
yeah. Well, maybe I'll broaden this
Yeah.
to include some other questions that are really related to this. How you frame and work. So even if you don't have representation, you can create a lot of this. I actually still believe that your own website is a powerful place. Curate the message, presentation, aesthetic. You can present work in the most elevated, professional way with the tools that you have. You can almost like, they say, you kind of present yourself in a certain way. Give you a concrete example. As I was getting into the performing arts world, even though I love playing house concerts, barns, these kind of like grassroots venues, I decided for a period that I would stop playing. My thinking was that even though I enjoyed them, if a performing arts center would look at the calendar and see I was all these tiny, niche gigs, they would have the impression, oh, this isn't the kind of artist that would play such and such performing center and command, right? Why would $4,000 looks like $400 the night before? And it was useful because then you would look at the calendar and all you would see were these like, and then people would go, and so it was a certain kind of thicket, right? You got to get one and piggyback off that. You get testimonial from one piece that you played. Things so you build, you know, and then also as a mentor, my friend said, don't judge your progress smaller than one. Another way of, because if you look back a year ago, probably most people are like, yeah, wow, a lot of good things. And it helps, you know, take voice that always.
And I'll just add to that I do think that a lot of I mean, if that is a vision that you have for yourself as a metric of success, is like, I want to have a breakthrough moment where, like, I'm recognized, where it's easier, it feels easier. I've felt that before, right? I've felt struggle to a point, and then for me, the question is, how are you using your perceived failures, right? How are you using your failures as leverage to do it better next time, right? And doing it better sometimes means meeting, like, understanding the world a little more, right? Or a world that you want to be participate in, and understanding the values of that world. And I'll give you guys an example for me from my personal life, a personal example. So I came to the scene. I'm from South Carolina. The first break that I caught playing jazz music, I came to New York to play jazz music. First break I caught was with a Brazilian percussionist named Ciro Baptista. And it was amazing that I got to play with him, and I was his sideman. And then I started to create my own project that was inspired by Brazilian music. But I'm a white guy from South Carolina, trying to sell Brazilian music at APAP. Okay? And I'm walking around, and I'm getting a lot of rejection. Even though I know that I can play the music really well, and I know that it's good. But I learned after like 5 or more years of kind of struggling, like meeting a wall, that, like, the community that I want to appease or engage with, or that I want to be seen by, they really value authenticity, right? And to that community, authenticity might mean, like, representing a music or a culture that might be inherent to you, that you just take for granted, that is something that is just authentic, right? And I started to think about it from that perspective, like, okay, well, where am I from? What music is, what is it about this music that I like in the first place? Well, a lot of it comes to be, a lot of these rhythmic elements that I love in this Brazilian music are actually inherent in the music of my home state of South Carolina. And the music that I grew up around, being from the low country region of the Carolinas. And so took that idea, reframed it with the friends that I grew up with and came up with from school. And we created this group called Rinky Tinky that reimagined the Dullah music of the South Carolina coast where I'm from. And all of a sudden, all the doors opened. You know what I mean? And it was like, we made one video, and we didn't do anything. It was like everything that I had worked so hard to learn about framing with the earlier project. There was like a piece that was kind of missing, that wasn't connected. And then I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I kept the baby, and all of the good things that were working, I used in the new frame. And then once everything fit together, it was like, wow, and then a whole new door opened. Does that make sense? So failing forward is a real thing, and none of the effort that you put into something is really a failure until you quit. Don't quit. Yeah.
Oh, you want to get 30 seconds.
He wants you to use the mic because they're recording, so they want to.
playing 10 seconds, forgetting the life. 30-second reaction, not an answer to your question, but because I find this inspiring. My professional career has happened for times. I think something mine is a room in every level when you establish the parameters of what success looks like. I have worked with people I won't who I never heard of. I got hired to do a big gig. And I'm like, who the hell's that? And I find out they sold out. And then after I worked with them, never heard of them again. Worked with another artist. We had 30 million followers. Never heard of them. You see what I'm saying? Like there's room for you to be an artist at your level of success.
Yeah, and the right pivot could just be right around the corner. You know, the right little tweak. It's not a big tweak. Maybe it's a little tweak. You know? So that's why we come to the conferences and stuff, right? Is to like learn like what my little tweak might be, right? And next year I'm going to be even better. You know, it's going to be more interesting for the community. This is all about people, right? We're in a room full of people. People decide what they're going to book. There's people that decide what they're going to put on those beautiful stages that we all want to play on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I got it written down. I have the list. Okay. So we were talking about, oh man, age-old question. Like agent, Jayme. If I just get an agent, then everything will be easy.
Happy, right?
It'll be so easy. I'll be happy, and all the gigs will just come to me.
I do one-on-one coaching for artists, and I have had innumerable people come, and I get a little soapbox caveat, like, I can help you get an agent. You will likely come back in a year. The way to get an agent and the way to kickstart your career are one and the same. The agent is looking for the same thing. They, as Clay likes to say, the agent's job is not to create things. Right? The agent doesn't build your audience. The agent doesn't create notoriety for you. Right? So these are all things that you have to do. Right? You need proof of concept. You need to be playing some gigs and building incrementally. You need to be actually making money. So I know maybe like in all the like hundreds of artists that I have known over years, I can think of like literally two that sort of were just so miraculous, right, at a very emergent stage that they like clutch. And that happens actually less and less. You need to prove yourself in some market. It might be having built, 10 or 100,000 followers on social media, or have a big, streaming presence, or have completely rocked it in your hometown. Like when Tank and the Bangas did that Tiny Desk, right? No one outside of New Orleans had heard of them. They had never toured anywhere. But they had like really built a strong thing and were known and loved. So you need proof of. And also keep in mind, being a booking agent is a job. It's probably the least fun job in the music industry. And they need to get paid for the enormous amount of time that they put in. And so if you don't have the numbers to show, then, it's hard to sell. So I would say certainly you can go pitch agents. The time to do that is not right now, because agents are out there selling artists they already have. But a good time to begin reaching out to agents, say May, when the bulk of the 2026 booked, they're starting to slow down. A lot of people take off a little more time in the summer, and then by August are printing materials, updating their website, announcing new artists, maybe letting go of artists that want to fit. So starting that conversation in late spring through the summer is a really good time. And in the meantime, work crazy hard doing all the things that an agent would do, also that a publicist would do and a manager would do. Get your assets together, build your social media profile, go play as much as possible. All of that can be done simultaneously. What you don't want to do is sit back and think like, I'm just going to work on my craft. once it gets good enough, I will be discovered by they will just swoop in, and then I can just spend days in the studio doing my thing, and I'll just get back with offers. You know, even once you have an agent, you need to be hounding them, partnering with them, collaborating with them, continuing to create demand, brainstorming ideas, you know, pouring a bucket of ice water on them when they're asleep, etc. So it continues to be active, and I will not name drop, but like a number of Grammy-winning artists that I know are literally still getting tickets for the show and helping them do final strategy last or, you know, a big artist that I love still in it. So they're like approving every like banner that goes up on Facebook. Ad, all kinds of stuff. Like artists that you wouldn't think are super deeply involved in the industry actually are. That's partly why there's.
I want to add to, you know, you tied this into the feedback that you were getting that someone, a presenter, told you you need to get an agent. Okay, I think that you're getting that feedback because you have not yet mastered the presenter's language. And if you learn the presenter's language, then they won't say that to you. They'll be actually glad to work with you, and they might even prefer to work with you instead of an agent. But it is important to understand that presenters, especially here, man, they're getting pitched relentlessly. Like that, there's a whole marketplace set up to grab their attention, and you see the. Does anyone here have a booth? Anyone in a booth? Yeah. If you have your booth and you know you're set up, and there's a lot of booths. There's hundreds of booths. I think over 300 booths. And they're all there to try to attract presenters and make sales. So when you speak to a presenter, you know, who is your prospect, right? You are an artist, right? But you're your own agent, and that means you're in sales, right? So you're selling. And when you're selling something, you have to understand its value to the client, right? Or to the prospect. And if you can hone in on that and you understand, it doesn't mean that you need to be able to sell 2,000 tickets in Iowa, right? That's not what that means. If you can sell 2,000 tickets in Iowa, that's great, right? Because that means you can come to them and say, hey, I have 1 million social followers, and I can show you the demographics that, 100,000 of my YouTube subscribers are in Iowa, and we should do a concert together because that's who we'll market this concert to. But most of us don't have that. That's totally okay. But you do something totally unique, right? And you do something that's so unique that there's a presenter out there where what you do that's so unique is a perfect match for the thing that they have. Like they have a concert series that focuses exclusively on shadow puppets. And it's like the main shadow puppet, event.
The Cranky Festival.
Yeah, it's the Cranky Festival. And like you have an amazing cranky act. And anyway, you need to really understand like what you have that you're offering and how to articulate it to a presenter. But more importantly, I think what a lot of us miss, and what I missed for definitely the first 10 years that I came to hang out around APAP, I miss the trying to understand what the presenter is dealing with. Like trying to understand their pain points, like what their job is, and why it's a hard job, and how I can help. Right?
This is super valuable. I was just in a meeting, half an hour before this session, and I spent the least amount of time of that 20-minute meeting pitching artists. I spent the most time listening to what is happening notes. How long is your season? When does it start? Which nights of the week do you have any specific dates already? Is there anything that's already booked? Is there anything that falls into a theme, right? Which could be avoided or pitched, right? If they do all of July as a classical music event, and they open up to other shows in August, I'm gonna not start pitching July dates, right? Like if you start pitching this thing that's not appropriate, you won't actually understand what's happening on the other side. It's kind of like that game Battleship, right? You don't get to see what's on the other side, but it's almost like this weird, fan fiction Battleship where you ask the other person questions. Well, tell me, does it, my kid used to tell me, could you tell me, is it 4? I'm like, I'm not telling you that. But in this case, they will actually divulge all kinds of stuff. And then suddenly I walk out of that meeting knowing exactly which artists I can pitch, which date. And I have essentially my follow-up email already drafted. I'm going to send on Thursday. And it's going to be a much better pitch than, check out my website.
Yeah, please.
Here's my
book me.
EPK. Book me work great.
Yeah,
It's like so random. But suddenly you're like, how about you could book this artist on Wednesday, July 23rd? And they're like, oh, I have a, right? These are also people that are overworked, overwhelmed. So you're also making their administrative job easy, right? You make it so easy for them. Actually, I pitched a venue recently that obviously was like really far behind schedule, hadn't booked anything. And they said, God, all of these artists look great. Maybe you could just do like one a month. That'll be my whole.
Yeah, and they're like relieved. They're just like, wow.
They were relieved. It was like lazy and brilliant. And but part of it is that I presented it really well. That they're like, gosh, you kind of already done the work. The marketing materials are all there. Assets are there. The description. They don't like write the bio and chase photos and get locked out of a Google Drive. It's kind of like they can see everything is presented beautifully. They know exactly what it is. You make it easy. And to keep that analogy of like the prospect or the customer, this is like what's happening in shopping all the time, right? They've reverse engineered. Well, what do customers want? Well, they want free shipping. Because they're like, I don't want to, I'm already like balking at the price, I don't want to also. And then they want it fast, and now they'll like send out it's on the way 10 minutes after you purchase it. Like, oh my God. Right? All of that stuff is like all reverse engineered from what are the objections? What are the reasons to go, you know what? I actually don't really buy it. I can, but they make it irresistible. There's a discount. There's this, right? So they make it so easy that you're like, okay, fine.
And it's almost, I will say this too, that it's almost never about like you're too expensive either, right? It's not like sometimes we think, well, maybe if I just lower my price so much, I'll get more work. It's almost never that, right? You have to you just have to search and do research and understand like where your offering meets that opportunity, and it's an obvious fit. And there's going to be so many obvious fits for all of us in this room. There's room for everyone. There's lots of opportunities out there. And now we have tools that make doing all this work easier than ever. I mean, I've been so inspired this year by automation opportunities, by research opportunities facilitated by our new AI friends. It's inspiring. I mean, if you know what you want to look for, you can use these tools to just get information that help you to speak way more clearly and way more effectively, right?
Thank you. Hi. I'm a consultant. I work a lot with artists. I by the way, I love Buoyant. I've seen them at City Winery, and saw them at SFJS with, I saw you guys with Lisa Fisher, who's the center.
Amen.
She's a singer, she's the best singer in the whole world.
Yeah, great.
I'm gonna step back for a second. Independent artists need to understand they must spend much more business than they do on. Period. And well, you say that, yeah, but a lot of people don't know that. If you don't update your website all the time, it looks like you ain't gigging. If you ain't gigging, nobody's gonna. One simple tool that I suggest that a lot of independent artists don't do, right? Thank you note to the presenter. And say, well, while they're at it, say, I had such a good time at your venue, I thought it was great. I'm updating my website. Can you send me 2 sentences? Because the presenters all have to know. I'm chair of the network of consortium. I was the president of California Presenters. All know each other. If I see a colleague's name on endorsement, it's worth its weight in gold. I will call that person. Thank you.
That's such great advice. Did everybody hear that? Yeah. I mean, we are in a network of referral. I mean, and you think it gets easier the more successful you get. That's not an illusion, right? That's real because it's all a network of referral. But to actively ask for it, I think is a superpower that we all have, and it's something that we really all take for granted. You have a successful show, you should easily turn that into 2 or 3 more shows, right? Because that successful show, that presenter who had a great night with you has the network to refer you 2 or 3 more people. And it would probably be their great pleasure, but they're equally overworked and as overwhelmed as all of us are in this time. So if you don't ask, you're not going to get it, right? So please ask. Yes, I have the list, Jayme. Okay, I mean, we kind of talked about this, like your network and connections. I mean, how can arts administrators make life better for artists? I mean, I think you guys have like the hardest job ever. Because like the more I understand, at the end of the day, we're all trying to build audiences for live entertainment, right? We're up against Netflix and scrolling, and we're all in this together at the end of the day because we love the interaction of live performance. And it's struggling. It's a really challenging field. It's oversaturated, and there's a lot of competition, right? I mean, we see that with shows that you would think would for sure just be, gangbusters, sell out, and all those things, and educating audiences is real. It's a lot of work. I guess the thing that you could do most to help artists, I think the unicorn, to me, the greatest presenters out there are the arts administrators out there are the ones who have built community trust. The ones who can put up a show with a totally unknown group, and because they saw it and they believe in it and they know that their audience will appreciate it, their audience will show up. And that is possible because I've seen it. It's also very hard won, and it takes many years.
It takes territorial vision and really good marketing. And in a way, we have all these sort of like very sound buzzwords, but I actually think in the end, it takes care. Like care, attention, focus on each thing, which sort of relatedly, I feel like on both sides, whether it's arts administrators or musicians, less pretty well. That feels a little bit like to some of the climate right now, because there's so much conversation pressure around scaling, right? It's like it's the working metaphor of capitalism, the working metaphor of the internet and social media, everything is like growth, more, more. And I actually think that all kind of get almost affected by that as just a metaphor. Like, well, that's what everything does. Everything that's successful just grows bigger. But I actually don't know that that's true. And, I had a beautiful conversation with an artist now in her late 60s, early 70s. And she's thriving and happy and making great art and slowing down. And it was beautiful, like, to just sort of see that time horizon. Like, oh yeah, but she's still, like, doing great, relevant work. Just different scale, and you get to do that and choose that any time. It also goes a long way for, as you asked, I think, about balancing music, or somebody asked, about balancing music and business. Even just the idea of balance, as if the whole thing is like a teeter-totter juggling act, not that a stressful way of thinking about it. If you can also learn to enjoy the business, and, just like a lot of people enjoy the craft of practicing or going to dance class, or, whatever it is, like part of why we're artists is learn to fall in love with the process. And if you continually relegate business as being this painful, frustrating process, then it will always feel like it, right? No matter how successful you are. So I think rather than thinking about balance, how can you enjoy a relationship with all the things that you have to do anyway, right? If you want to be doing this.
Has anyone heard of Seth Godin? You guys know Seth Godin, marketing guru? He spoke here last year. He was the keynote speaker. If you haven't heard his work or read any of his articles, I highly recommend check out his work. Seth Godin, he's a marketing guru. And Seth Godin, he says, think about your smallest viable audience. Like, it's not about we have, as Jayme said, this culture of like bigger is better. But who are the people? What's the smallest viable audience? And how do I make what I'm making the best possible for that audience? Right? I love that. And I'll all right. Yeah, great question.
I just want to confirm, it sounds like you're saying,
want to confirm something. It sounds like you're saying the best way for an independent artist here to connect with presenters, talk to somebody here, but afterwards, look at the spreadsheet, sort through folks that are looking for the kind of stuff that you do, email them, and then follow up with a phone call, or email and on to the next.
Email follow-ups are really important. I talked about this in the workshop yesterday.
With a phone call?
Well, you can do a series of email follow-ups. If you are charismatic and charming on the telephone, then a phone call can be great. But that is a separate skill that not everybody has. And it's learnable. Also, there are certain instances where the phone call is the place to necessitate a conversation. So, has this ever happened to you? You're booking a gig and you identify a date and they talk about a fee and everyone's really excited, and then you go to confirm, here's the content, and then cricket. That's a great example of it. Or there's been some interest and then they kind of backed off. Something's happening, rather than assume it's because they no longer like it. You want to find out what's happening with your organization. Maybe they had a change up of staff. They didn't bother to perform. Maybe, the marketing team had a different direction or some concerns, some objection that you might need. Or maybe there was some misunderstanding about what the project is, or, you know, to your point, there was some confusion about how many machines are coming, and said one thing in the email, but the videos were something else. They just, when people get confused, they tend to just like retreat or go. That's like the general reaction. Confused, they're a bit overwhelmed. It's not. So the more clarity you have in your pitch, your website, the more unified all of your materials, your assets, your email, your ask, everything, right? You're coming to someone, you're like, well, I got you're like a guy with a trench coat, you know, going like, well, I got this project, but if you don't like that, I got this other project. We do jazz, but we also don't do jazz. And it's kind of a string quartet, but sometimes it's right. It's really confusing, and when people are confused, they shut up. And so if you come in and you're like, this is a 4-piece band that plays X, right? This is our seasonal project for our dance group this year. One offering, you know, in a lot of like marketing motivational tools, it's like, you know, one offering, one price, you know, something so clear, one call to action. So you don't, and you might have some things up your sleeve with like the first, they're like, oh, whoa, we were looking for something much bigger, much smaller. You can pivot. That's great. But you know, I always worry when you go to the website. Currently off.
I want to, I mean, as we get into the weeds on the specifics, I mean, you know, maybe this isn't applicable to everyone, but those of you who it is, and I think it might be a lot, I would challenge you, take the list at the end of the conference and go through every presenter, look at their website, look at every page on the website, and identify the specific theory that you think what you do would be a good fit for. Not, you know, blanket blast to like every 2,000 seat hall that there's no way on earth you're going to sell tickets to, and they're just like, why are you sending me this email, bro? You got any tour history in Nebraska? Yeah, maybe you do. I don't know. But if you didn't tell me that you did, I can't book you in my theater. But if you say, hey, I noticed that you do the Nebraska Summer Concert Series on every Tuesday night from July to August. I'm actually coming through Nebraska on July 15th. And I think we would be a great fit for the series because I saw you had the XYZ band there last year. And audiences that like the XYZ band also like our band. I promise you, if you get that specific with presenters, they will reply to you because they will really respect that. They really respect that a lot. And bonus points, you can get AI to do this research for you at scale. It's not impossible. I know because I've done it myself. And it might be too long-winded to unpack exactly how to do that here, but it is possible. And so I will challenge you all, bonus points, leverage AI intelligence to research and to understand who you are, and then to seek opportunities where you are a good fit. And then double check them, make sure it's not hallucinating, and then reach out accordingly. You know.
And it doesn't have to just be for presenters. You can do this for building a press list. Say you're doing a California tour, right? You can get all of, you know, grassroots radio stations, or all of the jazz blog, or all of the, you know, if you have a particular like ethnic or cultural piece of the work that you do, you could, you know, I have an artist that I work with who's Italian American, right? So I had give me a list of every Italian culture in the U.S. Then every Italian language program in the country, and find the person who did the hierarchy, right? If they did anything to music, culture, etc., faculty. And this could be for pitching for gigs or workshops, but it also could be for invite your class. I've got a show in Chicago. Here's a code for 50% off, like all the right. So you're reaching way more targeted, right? That's going to go a lot further. Posting on your socials when how many actually, right? Like much more.
Yeah, and that's to add to the question that we had earlier about like how do you share marketing responsibilities and how do you share all that workload. And let's say you do have a show and you're finally going to go to Nebraska for the first time and play, and they're calling you like 2 months out. And they're like, we've sold 12 tickets. How many of y'all been there?
Nebraska.
Ain't that fun? No, we've only sold 12 tickets to your concert, and there's a 600-seat theater, and we got to hit at least 150, or we're going to cancel the show. Been there? Yeah, it's a drag. I hate that. So, you want to come armed with like a solution to that problem, right? And the solution is often like, okay, yeah, you have to guide, you have to understand how to market what you're doing. You have to, I suggest build like a whole meta suite of ads that you can run, and maybe they help throw in marketing budget, but you're running the playbook. I mean, you know your group, you know your act, you know what you're offering and what an audience is going to connect to more than the presenter does, right? Ideally, there's a partnership and they can help guide you into their community, but you have to take that responsibility. Does that make sense? And then, as Jayme was saying, like, yeah, I've been using the AI to help find community groups that, like our project, American Passion Quartet, it really connects with like humanities departments at universities, and they are inspired by the work, and often will, when they find out about it, if I invite them and offer them a discount code to our event, they will promote it to their, all their colleagues and to all their students. And that's resulted in some successful turnouts, right? And that information is there. It's easy to access those types of tools, but you have to take the lead on it. And Jayme and I are always teaching systems, because if you keep reinventing the wheel every time you have to do this, you're going to burn out, right?
So if you feel overwhelmed right now just hearing all this, these are great ideas. And one of the things about the world in which we live in is there's no shortage of good ideas, right? Like if you want to go learn something, you can watch 5,000 experts from all over the world, but does that actually make you learn right away? No, you have to put in, but you have to create a system that is repeatable. So if you feel overwhelmed, just make a list of all these ideas, right? And make it a checklist that you do for every show. Every show, the first thing I do, the media list. Do a little research into, reach out for maybe an opening band. Like, you just have a system. Once it's a system and a checklist, you kind of just become your own secretary. It's the extra effort of having to remember, come up with on the spot, do it at the last minute. Like Clay's situation that you mentioned was great. 2 months ahead to find out you've only sold 12 tickets is way better than 1 week ahead when often you find out. And you're like, oh my God, what do I do now? What you do now is it's a bit late. But if you had thought of this right away, because this is your checklist for every show you have, it's not like my favorite book it's not written in an incredible way, but there's a book by Jayme called that is some really, really good. Not great, but there's some smart ideas. The whole thing is about building. One of the examples he uses is that the team. The goal. We often think like if I just had a better goal, then this whole thing would be working better. But it's like the team that wins the World Series has the same goal as the team that doesn't. Right? It's not that like they had a goal that they did actual things and they turn them into assets. Yes. Repeatable.
Yeah, and I mean, I just want to do another objective plug for the AI world that we're living in. It's unreal, and I know that that's not perfect, and there are issues, but I'm an enthusiast, and I have been working really hard to adapt the tools, and most of us are really using this tool at a very, very surface level, chatting with it, but there are ways to implement this technology right now that are totally transformative. And one challenge that I'll present to you, maybe some of you have done this already, but you can build an AI board of directors for your career. You can have an AI Seth Godin and an AI, Rick Rubin on your board of directors and ask them, what's my next move? And it's an interesting time we're living in. It's exciting, So a lot of these like holding your feet to the fire, taking responsibility, accountability. That's a big one, right? Like to actually follow through. That's another great place to use the tool. You can use this tool to create a step-by-step system to like just work away at the system. And so I'm constantly, this last year, I've worked hard to try to identify as many places as possible that I can automate work. And so I tell what I'm doing. What am I doing every day? What's the work like? Okay, where can I automate? Where are places that I can automate work? Okay, here. How do I do that? What are the steps to automate that work?
I'll give you a great example, and then we're actually going to wrap the session. There's a quiet, not announced new tool in the new Apple operating system for those on a Mac. Called text replacement. Find it in the system preferences. It's super smart and powerful. Essentially, you can create a code where one word or even a few letters gets replaced as a whole line of text or even a whole paragraph. Which is to say, if there's a thing you write all the time, like just circling back to see if you got my last email, would love to chat. Thank you so much. Right? How many times do you write that every day? The symbol I use is the backslash. By accident, I just write backslash just. So I just go backslash just and get the full paragraph. Or if you have your bio, or here's to learn more about the thing, or here's my, or whatever it is, or if you teach lessons, here's my availability for, etc. Anything you use, and you don't need tons of them. I literally have like 5 of them, and for little things like that where you technology make things more efficient.
Does anyone here use whisper text? You heard of whisper text? Man, it's incredible. And so you know how you do voice memos and you talk to it and it always completely butchers them and makes them awful, right? So whisper text is AI that you speak to and it cleans everything and formats everything perfectly and it really works very well. And so now I don't type anymore. I talk to my computer and it formats everything. It's amazing. And it's so fast. It's just much faster. That's a good one. And that one's kind of cheap, quick and easy. Whisper.
And last one I mentioned yesterday is a platform called Follow Up Ben. followupben.com, $5 a month. Put CC column of any business email that you write, time increment, like 1 hour, 2 weeks, 3 months, and you'll get like a boomerang, a reminder to follow up. So that venue that you pitched at 3 o'clock in the morning, on Sunday night, now, we'll like 2 weeks later, bam, follow up. Follow up Ben.
Yeah, whisper.
Text replacement inside of your Mac operating system. Also, it works on your phone and it shares them. So the same one on your phone. Okay, thank you guys all so much for your great questions and engagement. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and also, thank you so much. We wanted to say, we really hope to keep this session going. We find this community is amazing, and we want to keep building more things like this where we can sort of share best practices in future APAP. So please give us a good rating. We appreciate that. Thank you all. Thank you.